Good evening and welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. The rising cost of tackling homelessness across our region as £67 million is spent trying to get people off the streets.
Now we're seeing, because of the cost of living crisis, a lot more young people coming through our doors who are working, who are studying, but they're still finding themselves homeless.
We'll hear from a charity providing emergency accommodation. Also tonight, the Yorkshire parents whose baby died after 27 minutes, urging others to challenge midwives and doctors if they have concerns. We go behind the scenes of the famous cabaret club, the Moulin Rouge, to find out why the can-can is getting the Yorkshire treatment.
Now, how do you like them? Acklam russets, 18th century variety grown right here in Yorkshire, don't you know? We'll be talking all about the harvest a little bit later in the programme.
Well, Upper Wharfdale was a picture today. Look at Bolton Abbey there with clear blue skies. Rain on the way for Friday, but what about the weekend? Join me for the very latest.
Good evening and thanks for your company. Charities in our region say they're seeing increasing numbers of young people and working people who are homeless. And they say they don't often qualify for emergency accommodation. New figures out today suggest it's a growing problem as the cost of living crisis takes hold. From April 2021 to March 2022, councils across our region have spent £59 million tackling homelessness. Data from this year shows spending has increased to over £67 million from April 2022 to March 2023. That's a 14% increase in just 1 year. Well, our reporter NJ Convery has been to see how one charity in Bradford is providing a vital stopgap for those who find themselves on the streets.
Think about homelessness and perhaps this is what you picture. The reality is more complex. According to the charity Crisis, every night of the year, tens of thousands of people across the UK are experiencing some form of homelessness. People like Ben.
At the start, I found it a bit scared because I'm on the streets.
25 years old and living with a learning disability, last year Ben fell out with his mum and had to leave the family home. With nowhere to go, he was directed to Bradford Nightstop, a youth homelessness charity.
What emotions were you feeling when you find yourself young, on your own and homeless?
I feel like scared and lost without no one being there. Being on the streets every day in this cold. If it wasn't for Nightstop, I wouldn't have been around here.
That first night, this is where Ben ended up, Nightstop's city centre shelter.
These are for the young people to stay in. They've got a single bed and an ensuite.
Asma is a volunteer here and says demand for services like theirs is rising.
I guess you can say it mirrors the current climate as well as the cost of living crisis, because it is a lot. You do hear the stories, I can't afford the rent. Some actually go to college or they're at university and they don't have anywhere to sleep at night. And a lot of them, they might have a job. One person that we met said that he'd walked miles. So you're talking about the distance between two cities or towns he was walking, and he didn't want to sleep during the night because he felt too unsafe, so he'd sleep during the day.
The unique thing about this charity is they don't just run a shelter, they also put young people up in the homes of volunteers. Dean is one of them.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to give them something to eat and then a shower and then a safe place to sleep, and we can, rest easy that we've kept one person from ending up in that spiral of spending multiple nights on the streets.
It's thanks to people like Dean that life is now looking up for Ben. He's got a job and somewhere to call home.
I think me living in accommodation instead of on the streets, I'm more happy because I'm in a safe place.
Tonight, however, many others will not be so fortunate. NJ Convery, BBC Look North in Bradford.
Well, Matthew Barty is a volunteer with the homeless charity Bradford Nightstop that we featured just there in NJ's piece. He told me that the statistics only tell one part of the story.
We're seeing a lot of students, a lot of people from middle-class families. We're seeing more asylum seekers and immigrant young people coming through our doors. So I don't believe it paints the full picture, no, and I feel like homelessness is still a massive issue.
Why?
I think there's a lot of different crises at play. You know, there's a cost of living crisis, there's a housing crisis. I think young people don't necessarily know what their rights are when it comes to housing. They get involved in short-term tenancy agreements and they get kicked out and they don't know what their rights are. So there's a lot of different crises at play at the moment, unfortunately.
And how busy are you?
I mean, we're very busy. I mean, last year in November alone, we had 74 referrals. And this time of year, winter, it's getting cold, it's getting darker. This is typically when we're at our busiest.
During the pandemic, of course, there were no homeless people living on the streets. Can't we go back to doing that again?
No, I believe we should, and I think it frustrates me. I think, you know, we have what's called the cold weather provision in Bradford, meaning that when it's below zero, there shouldn't be anybody on the streets. Why can't it be like that all year round? I don't understand why we have to wait until it's below zero.
So what are the solutions then? What do you think are the solutions?
I think we need to be working a lot more with different partnerships and organisations. There's a lot of great people out there. You know, there's Hope Housing, there's Pavsembi at Bradford City Football Club. We all need to be working together to make a difference.
We'll leave it there, Matthew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next to